Okay, good morning, everyone. Can everyone hear me?
Why did you do that?
Test 1, 2. Good. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Sandoval County Regional Emergency Commission Board meeting. So the first item on the agenda will be called to order the meeting, and at 10:01, so good timing. Just for information, we did publish and post this meeting. It was on the Village of Corrales website as of Friday, I believe, or maybe Thursday. Full public access with the agenda attached. So just want to make that noted for the notes. Okay, roll call. Corrales, here. Sandoval County.
Here.
Chief Masterson.
Chief Masterson.
Sheriff here?
I don't see the sheriff.
Okay. Santa Ana.
Here.
Rio Rancho.
Fire's present. Chief Steele is out sick.
Fire and Chief. Hope he gets well. And Town of Bernalillo.
Fire is here. Chief Stoyle's out.
Okay, we have a quorum.
Mr. Chairman, the sheriff is walking in. Sheriff Casals will also be here.
Oh, Sheriff is also present. Thank you. Welcome, Sheriff. Okay, this morning, do we have anybody on Zoom monitoring the meeting? Just to make sure we have audio and they can hear us okay and they can respond. Okay. Do we have?
Just make sure everyone speaks into the microphone for the recording. That helps with the minutes.
Oh, yeah. So we are taking minutes? Excellent. Thank you for doing that. Okay. Next item on the agenda is a presentation by Tyler Fawcett with DFA Rural Addressing Demo. Is he online? No. Okay. If I could just pause here real quick and I'll try to reach him to see if he's going to be able to log in. He may be having some difficulty. As I'm getting his phone number. This is a presentation that the Village of Corrales got a couple of weeks ago, and really informative, and I can go into details if he can't present, so I do apologize. This is just important. I want to see if he can get in. Okay, he didn't answer. We'll give him a few. If it's okay with the board, we'll kind of proceed with our agenda, but and see if he pops in. If not, I can recap at the end and kind of give you an update of what he's proposing to, I think, help us in the rule setting with some of our addressing needs, and this, not only the state, but in our county. So, okay, so we'll just kind of hold on that. Thank you for your patience. Okay, so item number 4, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve.
Okay.
Second.
Chief Del Flippo, motion to approve the agenda, second by Sheriff. Okay. Okay, all in favor of approval of the agenda, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, hearing none. Agenda passes. Thank you. Okay, do I have a motion to approve the minutes? Hopefully everyone got a copy of the minutes and had sufficient time to review it.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve the minutes.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the minutes. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a second. All in favor of approving the minutes, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, the approval of the minutes has been approved. Okay, so last meeting, there was, we had a vote for a chair and vice chair. There's been a question raised about how we proceeded with this vote. So to clean up matters, we're just gonna start clean today. So I was just basically presiding the meeting. As of last vote, I was elected chair. But I'm just gonna kind of run the meeting for now, and then we'll see as we move forward with the election of the chair and vice chair. The first item on this is based on the standard operating, our JPA. There's a question about offering it to our vice chair for continuity of the board, which is important to all of us. We're all professionals here. So don't want to, neglect that. So at this time, I'd entertain, or I guess the question would be, is Mr. Vice Chair Victor Magicapria, would you like to assume the role as chair of this board?
Chief Martinez, so I have served in either the vice chair or chair capacity for the last 8 years. And so I do believe it's time for me to step aside essentially and, let somebody else have a turn. And, I'm obviously here in a support role for anything that whoever is officially elected, the next chair and vice chair need. I'm here for you, but as far as assuming the chair duties, I will respectfully decline.
Okay. Well, thank you for your duty. And so since with that note, we offered it to the vice chair. May the record reflect that he was offered to position of chair and continue this meeting. He respectfully declined. So that'll bring us into electing a chair. So,
Chairman, I'd like to
Chief
nominate
Masterson.
yourself, Anthony Martinez, as the chair.
okay, I accept. So I don't know if I need to do a second on that. No, not nominations. Yeah. Okay, so Chief Masterson elected Chief Martinez as chair. Do I hear any other nominations?
Mr. Chair, I have a question, and it appears that JPA may be silent on this, but in Chief Steele's absence, I do have email confirmation for me to nominate him. I don't know if that's within the rules or something that the board can approve, but I would like to nominate Chief Steele.
Okay, I see no problem with that.
I believe there may be a prohibition in the current JPA from the Rio Rancho Police Chief. I have to check. Yeah, you couldn't, there wasn't, maybe, oh, okay.
For an absent?
No, for, I thought that
Rancho to
because
serve.
the.
No, I did not see that.
Okay, I may have been mistaken, I'm not sure what I saw then, but.
I think you got removed in the 2015
I do
update.
Just-
have the JPA here. I could read through that. You're basically speaking because of the fact that he oversees the communication
Right,
center
and
as well.
I thought there was something in there to prohibit him from serving as the board chair as well as the department head director essentially for the comm center. I could be mistaken.
Not that I've read, but I can also
Yeah.
check for you too.
To clarify, I did not see that in the
I think it got removed in 2015.
in the elections. I believe Rio Rancho can hold a position as chair or vice chair. They just can't have Rio Rancho Fire and Police as, like, let's say, a chair and a vice chair from the same
Oh,
entity.
okay, yeah, and could have been in the previous JPA that prior to 2015.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, just kind of a point of order, I would recommend maybe that Chief DeFilippo sends that email confirmation so that we can have it for the minutes, just for documentation purposes.
Absolutely, I'd be happy to do so.
Yep, you noted. Okay, so if we don't have any other nominations, Then I guess we'll go ahead and proceed with the vote. And so we'll go in order. So Chief Masterson nominated Chief Martinez from Corrales as chair. We'll do a roll call vote on the chair for Chief Martinez. Corrales, how do you vote?
Aye. For Chief Martinez.
Okay. Sandoval County, how do you vote?
Chief Martinez.
Santa Ana, how do you vote?
Aye for Chief Martinez.
Town of Bernalillo, how do you vote?
Aye for Chief Martinez.
Rio Rancho, how do you vote?
Mr. Chair, for clarification, my voting,
For Anthony,
just
for chair.
whether or not for you.
Yeah, and then we're
firstly-
going to go into the next candidate, which
Okay.
will be Chief Steele, and then we'll sum those up and appoint a new chair.
Copy that. It'd be no from Rio Rancho.
Okay. All right. Next candidate, Chief Steele for chair. Corrales, how do you vote?
No.
Sandoval County, how do you vote?
No.
Santa Ana, how do you vote?
No.
Town of Bernalillo, how do you vote?
No.
Rio Rancho, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. So the votes tallied up here, and those that are taking record, if you could just validate the counts, but for Chief Martinez from Corrales, it's 4 yay, 1 nay. For Chief Steele, Rio Rancho for chair, it's 4 nay, 1 yes. Is that correct? Okay. So I guess I will hold the position as chair until July. Thank you. I don't believe I need to do anything else on that. Now we're going to move to the vice chair. Vice chair, open nominations for vice chair.
Mr. Chair, I'll nominate Sandoval County Fire Chief Masterson.
I accept the nomination.
Okay, so Chief Manjacapra nominated Chief Masterson as vice chair. And Chief Masterson has accepted.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to nominate Chief Stuart Steele, and I have the same email confirmation of his acceptance.
Chief Del Flippo nominates Chief Steele for vice chair. And you will confirm with the email. Okay, for the record. Thank you, sir. Any other nominations? Hearing none, we'll go ahead and take a vote. Okay, so the nomination will go in order as they were nominated. So we're going to vote. The vote is for Chief Masterson as vice chair. Corrales, how do you vote?
Yes.
Sandoval County, how do you vote?
Yes.
Santa Ana, how do you vote?
Yes.
Town of Bernalillo, how do you vote?
Yes.
Rio Rancho, how do you vote?
No.
Okay. Next candidate for vice chair, Chief Steele. Corrales, how do you vote?
No.
Sandoval County, how do you vote?
No.
Santa Ana Pueblo, how do you vote?
No.
Town of Bernalillo, how do you vote?
No.
Rio Rancho Fire, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. Taking notes, we're going to go over Chief Masterson for vice chair. I have 4 yay, 1 nay. For Chief Steele for vice chair, I have 4 nay, 1 yay. Correct? Okay. So with those tallies, Chief Masterson, you've been elected vice chair. Okay, at this time, thank you. I hope that clarifies for all of our respected entities that the voting and the nominations were following our JPA, and there's no further questions. And this will be, again, to clarify the term until July of 2024. Okay. All right, item number 7, Manager Madrid.
Hi, good morning, Mr. Chair and members of the board. So I, as always, have quite a few notes, so I will try to keep this as short as I can. I wanted to start off by mentioning, can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay. that Deputy Chief Rodriguez has accepted a position for APD, so he's no longer with the city of Rio Rancho as our deputy chief. He is a deputy director or commander down there. Deputy Chief Salgado, as you know, is in the audience, will be assuming his role. So just wanted to make mention of that.
I'm sorry, where did he go?
Albuquerque PD.
Albuquerque PD. Wow, congratulations to Chief Rodriguez.
And next on my item is the Motorola router replacement. I just wanted to make mention that everything went well during the week that the routers were replaced and the installation. Chuck, who is the project manager overseeing the whole state radio project with Motorola, kept in constant communication with my team and as well as Sandoval County. As we pushed out information, we sent out the code red notifications letting the responders know, what part of the county was going to be down. I also, it was a big relief to me that they had their chief engineer on site, Joe Keene. I met him personally at 4 a.m. in the morning when we were at the dispatch center, and it was a great relief to have him on site as well because there was some issues that he was able to troubleshoot since he was actually the chief engineer of these routers. So I feel like everything went well during that time, and so I just wanted to make mention of that. Everything is done and complete now inside the center and on all the other sites as well that they were working on. We had a planned power outage. I think I mentioned this in the last JPA that we were going to be dispatching Santa Fe RECC out of our center. So that occurred. Everything went well. We had great interoperability radio-wise since part of their county is on the state system. The other part of their JPA is still on the VHF system. So we had both of their radios on our resources. So we were able to have radio communications with their personnel. They utilized a CAD, basically a paper version for their CAD since we didn't have the CAD interoperability, but everything went well. They shut down their power at 2 a.m. I believe in the morning is when they started it. And there was no hiccups. There was some hiccups, but nothing with major concerns. So that went well for them. It was kind of a nice relief for us to know too that in the event that we ever have a situation at our center or Santa Fe has a situation, we at least have radio operability between the two centers since they are our backup center and we're theirs. The MSAG updates. So all of the city, and we were just talking with this to Chief Martinez earlier. Jen, as you know, sitting right up here taking the notes, she does all our MSAG records and updates. And she has finished all of the City of Rancho records. They've been completed to match the city GIS, and now we're working on the updates with the county, as well as the Corrales street lines. It's an important part. GIS is an important part of the readiness for the next gen 911 that is around the corner, which I'll talk about next. So if you have any questions too regarding what Tyler was going to talk about, she can also talk about like part of what she does with the MSAG and the address updates as well. She's a professional at that and learning it. So next on my item is Next Gen 911. I mentioned this as well in the past. We're pretty much, it's been talked about, I think, in years past that, Next Gen was around the corner where it's now probably going to be live next year. So basically what it is we're in the process of updating all of our infrastructure to improve emergency communication services in a growing wireless society. The public will be able to transmit text 911, photo images, video, and data such as live streaming to the communications center. The center will also be able to receive data from personal safety devices such as the advanced automatic collision notification system and medical alert systems. Currently, the public can primarily make emergency calls and teletype calls for the deaf or hearing impaired persons, and minimal data is delivered through the Annie Alley system. So that's the telephone and address information that we receive in 911. With Next Gen on the way, because of Next Gen and the fact that it's going to impact the center and the way we receive calls, video, text, live streaming type information, I would also appreciate the board's support in our efforts to reclassify our dispatchers as first responders in the next legislative session and support our efforts to have their para changed to reflect them as being first responders as well, because this is going to be a huge impact on how they're actually receiving calls as opposed to just having a phone call. So yeah, we've been talking to the state regarding next gen. Our center is actually up and ready now with the capabilities to do next gen once they start the infrastructure on the state side and going live with it. So it's just a matter now of when that's going to happen. Our peer support team, as you guys know, this was something new that we started in our administrative staff. So recently we had 2 members of our staff attend and graduate from the Bernalillo County Peer Support Training that was held. The newest members of our growing peer support now include Nikki Scotty and Ciara Thacker. This now brings our team from 3 members to 5 active members in our support peer support group. And recently Kyle Taylor, he's one of our shift supervisors, recently promoted. He's been an active member of our peer support. He did a fantastic job reaching out to the staff when we had the recent loss of one of our retired officers, who was also an active law enforcement officer with Hamas. There was a lot of staff that knew him from, you know, basically the dinosaurs that are still around that knew him. And so he did a fantastic job just reaching out to the staff and making sure everybody was okay. He's been working well with the law enforcement peer support group as well as our peer support works with the fire department and the law enforcement peer support. So they're doing a great job. Next on my agenda, I'm not sure if you guys are aware of this. IRFPO, our NCIC coordinator, is working with the Rio Rancho PD on the recent changes to IRFPO, which is the Extreme Risk Firearm Protection Orders. It's a temporary order and a 1-year order. It requires the person to relinquish all firearms to law enforcement or to federal firearms licensee within 48 hours of service of the order. So we're basically working on a memo that coincides with what the state rules are regarding this. When somebody has been given an order to relinquish their firearms, once that's pushed out, we'll push that out to the law enforcement agencies as well, so that you guys are aware of how what is done and what we're doing when we have to enter these into NCIC. So just want to make you guys aware of that. Our interoperability, so currently with all the 911 directors around the state, we have been in meetings working on interoperability, not only just radio wise, but CAD wise. There was some recent issues with a center who lost a considerable amount of staff. And in one night they had, I think they were maybe down to 7 full-time employees. And in one night they had 2 of their staff call out, so they really couldn't dispatch. So it's been a talk amongst the directors and managers and centers how we can help each other out when that happens to another center. Can we take calls? Can we dispatch for them? Because of the state radio system, we do have that interoperability with those that are also on the state system. As far as CAD goes, they're talking about using the web EOC system, which is basically it's used for Balloon Fiesta. It's not an actual CAD. It's free for the centers, and we are able to enter calls for service into the web EOC, and we can update the information into that web EOC. We just can't dispatch actual units on this. So that's kind of being in the talks right now, working all the details out of, you know, if in the event another center has to take over for a center due to staffing levels. We know that, you know, the flu season is up and hitting now, so centers are running short again. So just kind of looking ahead on how we can support each other. So just wanted to make you aware of that as well. I wanted to also say thank you to all the agencies that have been pushing out our notifications on our social media postings to inform and educate the citizens about the tools that we have and utilize at the RACC. I also have another flyer that is in the process of being approved. It was after Chief Masterson and I talked regarding the center that's, you know, we are basically used to as an operating center, because we are open 24 hours. A lot of times, or oftentimes, the citizens call in wanting numbers to the court, wanting numbers to records department or wherever. So I worked with Christy. We developed a flyer so that we can push out to the agencies as well, push out to the citizens, listing all of that information so that they don't just tie up our center for, so that can, you know, non-emergencies can be non-emergencies and 911 can be actual emergencies. So that should be coming over to your, once that's approved, it'll hit your guys' emails too as well. So, and I appreciate all the other flyers I pushed out the Rapid SOS, what 3 words. So I appreciate and thank you guys for posting those on your sites as well. Regarding our SOPs, we've made some edits to our existing SOPs, and once they've been cleared, I will also push them out to the board for review. And they're just minor. Also, we did finish the county resource manual and updating it. So did you want me to push that out to you
Please.
first? Okay. Yeah.
That's good news. That's a lot of work. Awesome.
Yeah, so that has been completed. Yeah, I think the last time I think we discussed it, it was quite a few years that that manual was updated. Basically, it's the county fire dispatching manual that the operators use. Since it's a large county, there's a lot of districts, and we updated it to reflect the current operations of how the county runs. So I'll push that out to you then.
Awesome.
Actually, I'm going through this pretty quickly. So they just have a couple more things. Anytime we receive complaints regarding our staff, if it's call related or personnel related, I hope that I would like for you guys to try to push this out to your field personnel and your sergeants and chiefs to try to call the shift supervisor on duty when the incident occurs. Oftentimes we're getting information that are a week or 2 weeks after the fact, and it makes it a little bit difficult to try to go back and determine what happened during this time. So we do have a shift supervisor that's on duty. I ask that if there is an issue or complaint regarding that something happened, a call or a personnel issue, that they call the shift supervisor, not the operator directly. So that's why I just ask that you can push that out if you can. I also attached our budget with you guys. So just to kind of give you an overview, I know that according to the JPA, I'm supposed to present a budget now in October, but we're not in budget talks at this time. But I kind of wanted to just give you an idea of where our budget is currently. So this is, I basically took a screenshot of on the summary of our budget and the line items. So obviously overtime, pretty explanatory there. Filing fees, this is where we pay for fingerprints on our new hires, and this fee is actually going to be, we pay $23 currently per person. We're probably going to be asking for more money in this line item due to the fact that it's increasing. I'm not sure.
No,
that's the current. Okay, so $23 is the current price. It was like $16 because we have to have fingerprints on all of our staff. So that's where that comes out of. Technological initiatives. This is where we pay Code Red, LEFTA, which is the software system that we use to enter information on our staff if it's yearly evals, attaboys, any kind of a write-up or complaint. This is the system that we use to keep track of that. Priority dispatch and the CenturyLink data extraction. Professional services, this is where what we use to pay the UNM medical director fees, who we use to do our EMD cards. We also have a pre-hire psych evaluation that we had asked for money to start doing psych evaluations on all of our new employees. It's not something that we have started just yet. We asked for the money, it was approved. We're still kind of working out those details on that. Contract services. Last meeting I mentioned that I had asked for money for console cleaning service. So we were approved for them to come out twice a year. So they were here in September, and they'll be back in at the end of before the end of the fiscal year. Basically, prior the consoles in the area that the operators work in were never cleaned, and when they gutted out the center to put in all the new furniture, there was quite a large amount of collection of dust bunnies. This particular company specializes in the rust basket consoles that we purchased, and so it won't void the warranty because they actually go in, remove the panels, get underneath. I had also made aware of our CenturyLink techs and our Motorola techs in the event wires were disconnected, so that they were aware in case they had to come in and reconnect something, but everything went well. It was a great service to have. I'm really happy that they can come in twice a year, hopefully cut down on the allergies and some of the flus that go around. So that's what that comes out of. And membership subscriptions is where we pay the 911 affiliate that I attend for the director's affiliate. Travel, lodging, kind of explanatory. We had Justin and Christy attend the NINA conference in Texas. Transportation, that's where fuel and stuff is paid for, where Stacy and I went to the director's conference. Leases and rentals, what we pay for our copier, repair and maintenance on some of our equipment, like our shredder. We also have, we pay EDAC out of here. That's our Earth Data Analysis Center that does all of our mapping. We pay them to map, and that's what gets loaded into our CAD. So any questions, just let me know. I wanted you guys to have an idea where we are at currently on our budget and where we're lying. We're in the middle of talks going into our mid-year. And so I'll be meeting with Chief Salgado regarding our budget at mid-year, and then working on our next fiscal year budget. And I'll update you with all the things that we're working on and the asks that we're going to be asking for. Any questions so far? And I wanted to thank Chief Manager Capria for always including our staff. Got him off guard. For always including our staff. We it's nice to receive emails from him whenever the village is hosting some sort of an event or holiday special. We do have staff that are scheduled to come out for your guys' Halloween. And is it 2 other things? Just the Halloween? Just the Halloween one, but you know, we come down for coffee with the cop, so I appreciate, and the other agencies feel free to, Town of Bernalillo has done great too, letting us know when there's stuff going on in the Sheriff's Department. So Santa Ana, we're always, welcome to send our staff there. So I appreciate, you guys including our staff.
It's our pleasure.
Thank you. And lastly on my list, I just wanted to say that Deputy Chief, I think he walked out, Sandoval is retiring, and Deputy Chief Jake Bailey has been promoted to his position, so he's in the audience right now. It's going to be the next Deputy Chief for Rancho Fire. I want to say congratulations. And that's all I have.
Great. Thank you for the report.
You're welcome. That's a lot.
Do we have any members of the board have questions for Manager Madrid?
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
couple of things. Great update. Thank you for that. First question I had, though, was on the repair and maintenance. There's only 0.6% of that budget left. Are we going to have issues, or is that like an SUA or something like that, or that's available funds left? We haven't spent it, if I'm reading that right? We have hardly spent any money on the maintenance?
Correct.
Okay, so we're doing fine there.
Yes.
All right, just wanted to make sure that I read that correctly. Last year, if I remember, on the legislation for first responders for dispatch, was there a bill that was ran? I believe
There was a bill, and I believe it didn't go through the House.
Okay.
That's where it died. I can't remember. This year, I'm actually going to try to, since it was fairly new last year, I'm going to kind of put my feet in the water with it this legislative session and be more a part of that. But yes, there was a bill, and I think I can't remember the actual bill number that it was. Okay. But yes.
Once you have that again, please let us know. I think we'd all be willing to make sure our elected officials are aware of that and our support as well. And I assume that that's a statewide initiative, so yes. It can definitely help get that out to other fire chiefs, and at least on our side.
Thank you. I would appreciate that.
Awesome news. I can't wait. I'm going to post the phone number tree large and wide. I was even sitting here thinking maybe we should make some magnets on it, like what we do for the when we hand it out to people. It's a great idea. So thank you for that. I hope it helps.
You're welcome. Thank you as well.
Okay. Anyone else have any questions for Manager Madrid? I have a couple. So thank you for bringing it up, Vice Chair, the legislative issues. So yeah, if you can please let us know if there's anything that we as members of the board can help talk to our elected officials to get permission to try to promote, bills that, will affect the communication center or your employees and staff. Do you currently have anything on the capital ICIP pertaining to the Sandoval County Regional Dispatch Center that we could start talking to our elected officials about, like capital improvements or anything like that?
Currently, we do not, that I'm aware of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I looked at Deputy Chief
Well-
Romero, he's like, yeah.
You know, collaboratively, if we can all kind of help one another, it all benefits the county. So, but let us know on those things. You mentioned peer support, and that's a subject that, do you have a way to communicate with the agency where the call may have occurred that your dispatcher needs to talk to the responders? I mean, right now, I'm thinking of a call we had in Corrales, and it was just like a phone call and stuff, but you know, it's good so that we sit down and talk about some of these things that may come up. So do you have a standard procedure for that you could share with us, that
As
so I
far-
can share with staff?
As far as how they work on
No,
those-
just if we have a difficult call where you receive the call and it's difficult, and then our responders end up going to that call. I feel that we have a disconnect there, and I think we need to debrief together somehow.
Right.
And
Oh, so now I understand what you're saying. So that's the one thing that I am very 100% supportive of, is including our staff whenever they are involved in those types of calls that they're taking, or if they're dispatching on that call. Having those debriefs is, I think, a huge importance for them to kind of get the other side of how the call ended, because we only see the beginning part of the call. We are involved when the city of Rancho has a major incident, and they do bring in a counselor and they do a debrief with the fire department. We bring in the fire department, the police department's there, dispatches there. So every agency that has been involved, chaplains are there. They all get to talk about their role or whatever occurred. And it's been very beneficial. We have our peer support. So if you do have that type of an incident, it's usually the agency that worked that incident. That incident usually does the debrief. Whenever you have that debrief amongst your staff, call our staff, and we definitely send them down there if they want to. Some have in the past chosen not to be part of it. We do check on them as well, but I would appreciate the call to them, and let Stacy and I know, and we can make sure that if they're working and they want to go, that we get them the coverage so that they can attend.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, maybe something we can discuss in further detail, just a procedure wise. Yeah.
Right, that works.
Okay, that's all the questions I have. Thank you.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Mr. Chair.
it. Okay, next item on the agenda. Would be number 8, subscriber free fees update. Chief Masterson.
Mr. Chairman.
Yeah.
Okay, so I have a little PowerPoint that I wanted to go through. This was in reference to when Chief Steele, Chief DeFilippo, and the rest of the JPA talked about this last meeting. And I wanted to put together some information about this. Before I jump into this, though, I just want to say that right after this meeting, you will all and your city administrators, village administrators, will be getting an email. The Sandoval County Commission has authorized and will be having a special meeting next Monday, the 30th at 2 p.m. And during that meeting, it is going to be all things radio communications. I know that outside of the JPA, and I want to be very clear about this, when it really comes, as you and I, Chairman, have talked about before, the infrastructure, the system itself, is, though it ties into the dispatch center and the JPA, they've always kind of been separate. So as of right now, the way we're kind of proceeding with this is something that Sandoval County's Commission has asked for. It's a workshop where I'll be presenting on all things about the communication system outside of the dispatch center, outside of this JPA. However, they go hand in hand. We all know that. I very much hope that you can all make it. Please bring your village administrators, city administrators, whoever you feel might be appropriate to come to that meeting. And let's get it all on the table. Let's get all the questions answered, et cetera, so that we can make sure that everyone's on the same page as we move forward on this. Again, Monday the 30th at 2 p.m. in the Sandoval County Commission chambers, and I will send you the email right after this. I wanted you guys to hear it from me first. If for some reason you cannot make that meeting, or your elected officials or city village administrators cannot make that meeting, I will come to you. So if there's a city council meeting, a village council meeting, and you cannot make this one, I will come to you and give the same presentation to your elected officials and or administrators or whoever it may be, hopefully with you in the room as well, so that we can get all these questions answered that are out there and make sure that we're all on the same page. So I wanted to preface by saying that, and then I want to jump in. This is a very quick slideshow. I just want to make sure we're on the same page about how these radio costs work, and we'll talk about subscriber fees as well. So go ahead and jump into the first slide. I just want to kind of also state that, in order to operate this system, there's a lot of needs to operate the system outside of the dispatch center. Once the dispatcher hits transmit, what happens to the signal after that? And I've done this presentation or a version of this presentation before, kind of explaining how the system works. But in a nutshell, there are as many as 20 different departments. I mean, we represent 9 departments here on this, 5 agencies, but 9 departments if you look at it as law enforcement and fire. There's a total of 20 departments throughout Sandoval County on a daily basis that the dispatch center is toning for, sending out information to. So we're trying to make sure that we are providing communications infrastructure to support all 20 fire departments, fire and police departments throughout the county. That includes a microwave system, an internet system at all of the different sites throughout the county, which at every site we have to have network capabilities. We have to have a core somewhere. Currently that core or that data center is at the Sandoval County's administration building in the basement. You have to have microwave dishes, certain routers, as Manager Madrid was talking about. A lot of the routers were just replaced. And there are 2 routers at every site for redundancy. We have to have configuration cards, which are being taken care of. And obviously we have to have connectivity to the state. We have to have radio frequency equipment, including antennas, base station radios, of course the field radios that you have, and of course the dispatch consoles at the center. The shelter itself is as the chairman knows, problematic at times when the HVAC at Angel goes out, I feel like. And that happens at all the sites. We have HVACs to go out. We have security concerns at the different sites that are constantly having to be addressed. And then we have the base infrastructure when it comes to power. You need main source of power, and then you have to have a generator with some sort of fuel source. And then you have to have battery backup or UPSs. And we're going to talk about a couple of these here as we go. So again, funding all together over this system since 2019 when we kind of kick-started this whole thing off. The county geo bond from 2018, $4 million. It was initially for phase 2 of the simulcast system, which was implemented in the southern part of the county in 2015. We are going to extend that simulcast network up into the Jemez corridor. However, as we discussed, it was advantageous for us to move towards the state system, so we repurposed those funds. Purchased a lot of field radios, the 12 dispatch consoles that are at the center right now, and then we started doing a lot of design and engineering for the new state system, including site and tower inspections, and then some improved microwave links and connectivity to the state. For clarification, the microwave system, the internet system that is currently used at most sites throughout Sandoval County, the state just uses that microwave network. So they partner with us, and it's not a state network really. Well, it is a state network, but they use our microwave network to broadcast that and connect everything together. Go ahead. As most of you know, in 2019, we got legislative funding for additional radios. It included mics, batteries, chargers, et cetera, at $2.6 million. Next slide. This just happened, I don't know, about a year ago, but it took forever for us to get the equipment here. Part of the problem that we were having with the new system, we were getting updated base station radios, but with the fact that we are going to continue to use the old VHF system as our backup, and as Fire knows, the VHF system is currently still being used for the paging at all of our stations and things of that nature. So we still have to maintain that VHF network in addition to the state network. In addition, the legacy system that is still currently serving the Jemez corridor in the northwest portion of the county, all those base station radios needed to be updated too, as they were at end of life. So that cost $162,000, and we finally got those going not too long ago. Next slide. We found out too, as we were moving forward, that all the UPSs, the battery backups at all of our sites were at end of life. So that was something during the inspections that was identified, and we needed to come up with additional funding for that. So the county general fund and some ARPA money was used, $477,000 to procure UPS battery backup at all sites, at all locations throughout the county, whether that's current state system sites, VHF sites, or legacy sites. Again, some county general and or county ARPA money was used, $882,000 to do router replacements. As Manager Madrid was talking about, we have routers and we have card replacements. We'll talk about card replacements here in a second. Those are configuration cards, but basically every site has multiple routers, 2 different internet routers basically, so that the internet system can connect with each other. Remember, this isn't like the old systems. A lot of you remember the old system where you had to be able to see the tower and you would just, it was like a mobile repeater. The new system, it all uses the internet. So we got to make sure that the internet is working. And just like any router that you have at your home or your office, routers go end of life. The last upgrade for our routers was in 2015. Each site needs 2 routers. And as some of you know, we did have an issue when we were upgrading some of the routers at dispatch that had nothing to do with dispatch. It has something to do with a wiring issue somewhere down the line. But those have all been updated and put into service. And it's important to have those 2 routers at every site for those redundancies. So that's something that has been taken care of at this point. This is what I was just talking about, the configuration cards. This just occurred as well. We're getting those, actually we've just purchased those. We're getting those ready to install. Those just help with configuration at all the different sites so that the system can talk to each other, talk to the different sites, talk to the legacy sites, the state sites, etc. But we just spent another $50,000 taking care of that. All right, so we have spent a lot of money thus far, and I know that one of the big things on everyone's talking point were these subscriber fees. When we first started, I made a commitment so that we could all plan for and budget appropriately that we would cover the first 3 years of subscriber fees when we took over and started moving towards this. And I should have probably been a little bit clearer when I said I'll take care of them. This is basically, think of this as a credit and potentially some other funds. Because of the amount of work and the money that we have put in towards the system thus far that is working with, not just for us, but the state utilizes that infrastructure as well for supporting other sites, they're going to give us a credit. And that credit is what's being used to help offset those subscriber fees. So don't think of the subscriber fees at 1.2 million as a pot of money. Those were amounts that were allocated, that were looked at so that we could make sure that from a budgetary perspective, we could get going in the first 3 years and take care of that. So don't think of that 1.2 million. You've seen that number before. That's not something that I have in an account somewhere ready to go. We have credit, and then if that credit were to run out, that would be a conversation with some other funding sources that I have available to continue ensuring that we cover those first 3 years as I committed to back in 2019, as the county committed to really back in 2019. So that's not really a pot of money that we can distribute, split up, anything like that. It's something that we just need to be aware of, and it's something that I was committed to making sure that none of us, the 9 agencies here, or the other 11 agencies throughout the county, no one was going to have to worry about subscriber fees for the first 3 years. That was my commitment. As you know, we got this year's subscriber fees covered at the state level, but that was an executive order basically. So we still do not have the legislation to get that taken care of long term. So you'll be hearing from me come January. We hope to also have a bill number soon. I have some legislators that are willing to pre-file in January. Obviously, we got to talk to our lobbyist and see how that all works. But as soon as we have that legislative bill number, I'll get that information to you, and hopefully we can move that forward and get those taken care of for all entities for the foreseeable future, not just in Sandoval County, but in the state of New Mexico. So that's my commitment to continue working on this. That being said, our credit is still exists. And should something happen at the state where we can no longer use executive action or whatever it may be to cover subscriber fees, we still have that credit to help offset costs until we can figure out the long-term budgeting of those subscriber fees. Next slide. I wanted to also be clear too that we have a lot of unfunded, currently unfunded items that need to be addressed. And right now, I'll be honest, a lot of this stuff isn't on the ICIP because we don't even have the infrastructure yet on the county side to even pursue these items yet. We know we have gaps in the Jemez corridor. And as I've said before, Sandoval County residents, regardless of the jurisdiction that they reside in, love to recreate in the Jemez corridor. A lot of people go up there all the time, whether it's hiking or recreating, going into Jemez Falls, whatever it may be. So I want to also make sure that that safe system can work throughout the Jemez corridor. A lot of fire departments, law enforcement agencies have helped me in the Jemez corridor when it comes time for search and rescues or Cabazon Peak or whatever it may be. We want to make sure that radio communication on the state system works in all those areas too. And right now, they're still on the legacy system. They never even upgraded to the 2015 system. They're on, I got to be able to see the repeater to talk to dispatch. That's how those systems work up there. Because of the topography of the Jemez corridor, we need anywhere from 2 to 5 sites throughout that Jemez corridor. Right now, we are in communication, and I think I've talked about this before, with some other agencies that have some towers or have some infrastructure in that area to hopefully reduce some of those costs. But if I had to build, for example, Ghost Mesa today, procure the land, because right now we're leasing it, procure the land, build the site, the pad, the tower, the shelter, generate all that stuff, it's minimum $5 million, minimum. And that's just for one site. So we got to do a lot of that kind of stuff in the Jemez corridor, the northwest area of the state, et cetera. And those are unfunded currently. We're still working and negotiating with Motorola on a maintenance agreement to make sure that the infrastructure that we have put in is able to be maintained long-term. I say 2.3 million, that's over 6 years. So obviously that'll be an annual thing that the county is going to work on budgeting moving forward. But those are big costs that I'm continuing to look at and work towards. And as we have some additional information and infrastructure and ideas planned, it'll be something that I work with, hopefully the county, to get on the ICIP moving forward. But right now we got to do some groundwork before we can even take these next steps moving forward. So is that my last slide or was there one more? Yeah, that was my last slide. So I hope that kind of answers some questions. Again, I'm going to get into more detail on Monday. If you guys can join me at that, I'll get into more detail about all those costs and what we're looking at long term. But as we talked about last time, I don't want to think of those subscriber fees as something to where we can divvy up. Those subscriber fees is a credit. It's something with the additional costs that we've put into the system that we just kind of need to reserve right now as that credit in the event that we can't get any legislation that moves forward. So I know it was a brief, quick overview, Mr. Chairman, but with that, I stand for any questions.
Great. Any questions from board?
Mr. Chair, Mr. Vice Chair, more of a comment. Chief Masterson, I do appreciate the clarification on that, because my initial understanding was that it was kind of a pot of money that we were holding in the event that we had to pay the subscriber fee. So that clarifies for me as far as where we stand and future legislation. If the subscriber fees are picked up, then essentially those credits really hold no value at that point. In addition to that, you talked about the additional sites needed in the the Jemez corridor. At what point, we've kind of given DeWitt and the state our towers, right? They're utilizing our towers for the overall state system. We get to use it. That's the benefit. When do they, or do they? This might not be a correct interpretation of me, but when do they start to fill in the gaps and build towers on DeWitt's essentially expense to fill those gaps?
That's a great question, Chief. And I will say, and I can get into more of this on Monday as well, but as an example, right now, we know for sure, and I know Mr. Slota just stood up, so he might chime in if I don't hit it all, but because he knows a little bit more about what they're working on. But for example, right now, the state is looking at a tower at their own cost on the west side of Rio Rancho somewhere. It has been identified that there might be a couple service gaps in your Northwest Loop area. And the state has taken that on to say, you know what, we're going to help you provide some infrastructure. Obviously, it'll cover Northwest Loop, but it'll cover a lot of that 550 corridor too going up. Right now, they are actually in negotiations with the Forest Service for Cerro Pilado. There's a tower at the top of Cerro Pilado, which potentially will help us in the Jemez corridor. How much it helps us is to be determined. We have some coverage maps, but until you actually test it, you don't really know. And then they are looking at some sites in the Northwest corridor as well, maybe in Rio Arriba County or McKinley County that might be able to help us. So I agree with you, and we are, and I don't know if Mr. Slota wants to say anything else, but we are continuing to work with them to see maybe what other availability they have, because they're getting $40 million a year, right, on different sites. Their priorities are the interstate corridors right now, but we are continuing to push them, with that whole concept of the southern part of this county is in great shape. The north and Jemez corridors are still struggling, and as dispatch can attest to, we still have a lot of areas up there where we can't hear what our responders are saying. So did I cover everything, Mr. Slota, would you say? He's in meetings with Do It a little bit more often, so he might have some additional comments.
Is it?
I don't know.
Can you hear me?
It was on, I don't know if it still is.
Just speak loud.
Yeah, speak loud.
Okay, so just generally, New Mexico Do It annually gets funded for projects. So the previous 2 fiscal years, this fiscal year and the next fiscal year, they've received money for sites, but not all of that money is necessarily spoken for. So as Do It identifies gaps, they reallocate the funding they have, whether that's to build infrastructure or to improve existing infrastructure, whatever that is. So with the last 4 or 5 fiscal years and the next couple, they're looking at somewhere in the neighborhood of 100 additional sites throughout the state. And the way the state system works is your devices and your channels, your talk groups, are not limited by site. So any site that your radio can see is beneficial to you. So an example of that is, for some strange reason, Tesuque, which is up towards Poake, the actual site, you can hit Tesuque from Rio Rancho, and Rio Rancho devices roam onto Tesuque on occasion. Or Cochiti Lake uses the Baton building in Santa Fe quite often. So even if they're not directly investing money in infrastructure within the county borders, a lot of their sites that they're looking on adding have benefits. One of the most common sites we use in southern Sandoval County is actually the Albuquerque Simulcast and Bernalillo County landfill. So 4 sites throughout the Bernalillo County true metropolitan area that we use quite often. The flip side of that benefit is that, for example, during Balloon Fiesta, the site that covers Balloon Fiesta Park and the immediate surrounding area the best is actually the Rio Rancho simulcast, so Angel, Rainbow, and Franklin Towers covers Balloon Fiesta Park the best. Every single radio during Balloon Fiesta was actually using those sites and not any of the sites in Albuquerque. So anytime they expand anywhere, we see some level of benefit, whether that's safety during travel for your department members, whether that's improved training. You can actually take your radios down to Socorro into the burn building and use them now, whereas before it didn't work. So there's, anytime they expand, there's some sort of at least peripheral benefit to all of the users.
And I will say there are a lot of working groups, to his point about Balloon Fiesta. It was identified earlier that the Rio Rancho simulcast cell was going to be heavily used. And so on that note, Do It and Motorola had technicians in the area ready to go, so that if that site became overwhelmed, they had contingency plans in place so that your team, Corrales' team, Bernalillo's team, no one would be negatively affected by it, right? So to his point, they are working at helping us solve gaps that also solve other gaps too. So though we do need to invest some money potentially, we might be able to piggyback off them, to your point. So we'll kind of see, but we are in constant communication with them to try to figure that out.
Copy that. Good. Any other questions? Vice Chair Masterson, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
So clarification on the credits, that pot of money that we have as a credit, is that calculated based on agencies that they contribute to the communication center? For example, Angel Road is village-owned land. We own the building. I think Sandoval County owns the infrastructure. Does that all apply to the credits?
Yes.
To an extent. So when we entered into conversations with Do It originally, and they asked for subscriber fees, and we said no. Basically how that conversation went. because of how we did our project, when you look at Albuquerque and Bernalillo County, DeWitt had to come in and build a radio system. So Albuquerque and Bernalillo County had to pay the subscriber fees because that's what builds the system. When you look at Sandoval County, we came into it with shelters, towers, microwave network, generator, propane, utilities, the steel and the property. And between that and the UPS upgrades, they basically calculated a percentage of our overall capital assets that they would credit us. So they didn't consider recurring costs or anything like that in terms of maintenance, but they did give us a credit in terms of physical infrastructure that they would get beneficial use from, including the shelters, the generators, HVAC systems, things like that.
Okay. Yeah, no, thank you for clarifying that, because I know a lot of our entities have been doing this, and this is the backbone of the communication, and we just want to make sure that we're getting, we're contributing somehow, whether it's not cash, but it's something in kind. It's brick and mortar that we've been operating for years to make the system work. I just want to make sure we get credit for that.
And that's why the credit was going to be for all agencies, right?
Yep,
Not
yep.
just any one
Okay.
agency.
And I guess another note, the discussion about, I know the county as a whole is growing. There's debate, as far as, Corrales really isn't expanding much, but, Rio Rancho, Sandoval County, some of our entities. And so I just suggestion that you guys work with your local planning and zoning departments, building code officials, that if you have big developments that are going out to where they need communication coverage, that you are talking to them, because they're required to bring in infrastructure like water and sewer and utilities. It might be the time to where they can, help build a backbone for our communication infrastructure.
And if nothing else, put BDAs, bidirectional amplifiers, in those big
Yep.
buildings that they're building all over the place so that we have connectivity. Good point. Thank you for that.
Yep, so-
Intel's actually adding it as they do their expansion. So,
Right,
yeah.
because again, we're not, trying to put the burden on the businesses and stuff, but they are requiring us to respond, police and fire, and if we can't talk, they should at least help us try to build that infrastructure. So, okay. And no other comments? Okay, we'll go in. I'd like to take the time now before we go into public comment to kind of give you an update. I've been texting DFA, but no response. So I'm going to talk a little bit about our presentation that wasn't presented. So Village of Corrales, the clerk and I had the opportunity to have an online interactive training with Tyler with the New Mexico 911 GIS. I got to learn a lot. I know that Village of Corrales, we do not have a mapping department or GIS specialist. We rely on the county. We have relied on Rio Rancho for help and Mr. Cog. So one of the things is this program is offered to basically entities in the state of New Mexico to help kind of put some of these issues that we have as responders and finding 911 addresses, whether it's rural roads or roads that don't have names and they're just, lateral ditches or whatever, that we can have staff create an account, input it. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Romero, and it gets updated to the GIS. They double check our work that we've inputted. Then they shoot that out, I think, once a month to the 911 centers throughout the state of New Mexico. So for example, Corrales, if we go through and update some addressing, or we have new roads added or address changes, we can do that now in-house and send it out, and then you guys would get updated every month. So am I missing anything, Mr. Romero? Okay. So that's a bummer that we didn't have the presentation, because I know Rio Rancho and Sandoval County have a GIS department, but for the rural areas, Santa Ana, Bernalillo, I don't know if you guys have a GIS, but I think it'd be beneficial. So if I can get his contact information, I'll try to forward it out to you guys so you guys can make contact with him. And I highly recommend do it online or maybe in-person demonstration. And yeah, I hope it helps. Yeah.
And I know that I usually receive the map updates from Tyler monthly. I can also push those out to the board as well when they're updated, if you'd like.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah. Yeah, we always need to try to improve. I know that when they call the 911, and we want to get there in a timely manner, and sometimes it's just, we don't know where we're going. Yeah, so, okay, thank you for that. Okay, next item, number 9, public comment. I added this section to this agenda, so this is a new item. So do we have anybody in the public that would like to address the board? Do we have anybody online that has raised their hand or anything? Okay. Yes. Manager Johnson.
Thank you. Mr. Chair, members, I just wanted to point out, heard some discussion about legislative agendas. We are now in the process of putting together the county's legislative agenda. It'd be very helpful if you're talking about your First Responders Act. If we can get a copy of that so that we can put that on the county's legislative agenda. We'd like to get that done by the first meeting, I think it's the 8th of November. And getting that from the board and getting it from your agencies would help us. Now, if they get up there, we can find a sponsor for the bill. We don't need the number to put it on our agenda. Rio Rancho and Sandoval County share a lobbyist. It makes it stronger if you can walk in and say Corrales, Rio Rancho, Sandoval County, they're all standing in support of it. Some of these may not make it on the call this year. That's the other hurdle we have to overcome for something like the First Responders Act, is we have to get it on the call this year because it's a budget session, 30-day session. But going forward, it wouldn't be a bad idea, even for this body, to have a past legislative agenda that you could forward to us and we could add it to ours. So just a thought.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, County Manager Johnson, and I will get that information to you as well as soon as I have it.
Great. Any other public comment? All right. Hearing none. Okay, this item number 10, open discussion amongst members of the board. Does anybody have any pertaining business they'd like to discuss? Okay. Couple things. So Manager Madrid and I have been communicating. I know that we have a standing JPA. I'm going to do my best as chair to follow it as written. One of the things that has come up is we're supposed to be having, budget meeting, like this meeting was supposed to be budget and have our respected managers and finance staff, but we've never really done that in the past. So I just want to make that clear to all the board members why we're not proceeding with that, as far as we're supposed to have a budget by December 1st, I believe. But so we'll be working on the budget, and hopefully come January, we'll have a preliminary budget. Is that correct, Manager Madrid?
No, because we do not enter our budget until probably, I want to say, February or March, I believe, is when we actually enter our budget. That was one of the changes that they wanted to make to the JPA when they were first proposing, because it doesn't coincide with when we actually go into budget talks within the city. So I have no budget to present.
So we'll just keep communicating, and we'll try to bring it to the board as early as possible. I know in the past that all of us have our budget meetings and hearings, and we don't want any surprises. So I'm going to do my best to try to stay on top of this. If there's anything that's going to come up that may impact our budgets, try to get to you guys early so you guys can start letting your administrators and managers know of things coming down. So, okay.
Yeah, usually the bigger items are probably going to be, it's going to stem from the CBA, and when they go into negotiations, depending on, pay that they ask for, but other budget items will be February, March. But as when I get that information, I'll definitely pass it on.
Great, thank you. One of the other things too is sorry, I put it over here somewhere. So members of the board, one of the things that I'm very proud of our communication center and how we serve the county as a whole. And I think that the dispatchers do a fantastic job. I think you guys serve a very unique, you have the cities, you have very rural. So I got online to look at some upcoming trainings, and I'm unfamiliar, I'm learning, but APCO 2024 is August 4th and 7th in Orlando. And I don't know if that's within your budget for training for some of your staff, but this is like just a discussion. I'm trying to maybe see if there may be an interest of maybe a board member without violate any sort of, rolling quorum. But a board member, maybe we could sponsor a training for somebody on the board, an entity, if it's within their own budget, or if this is something that we can budget for in our communications. Also, they have a call for speakers right now going on, and I don't know when it closes, but I just thought that might be an opportunity, and I don't know, Manager Madrid, if that's something that you would want our support as a board, if you would, is that something you would like to go do and just talk about Sandoval County, New Mexico, and the Sandoval County Regional Communications Center? Just wanted to throw that out there. I just think it'd be really neat to have some representation in Orlando about what Sandoval County Regional Dispatch Center does. So,
Thank you. I appreciate, Mr. Chair. I agree with you. Stacy and I and all of my administrative staff, we've been working hard at training our dispatchers, getting them the proper training, continuing that training. It is a unique center in the fact that we do have city, county, and all the other agencies that we dispatch for some of the pueblos and stuff, and the rural areas, and there's a lot to learn. And outside of that, maintaining their certifications, we do send our staff to the APCO trainings and to the NENA trainings. We just had Justin and Christy at NENA in Texas recently as well. That's the other affiliation with dispatch. And I'm more than, as I'm learning and growing in my role, I made mention that I was going to be more proactive in the legislative session with our directors affiliates. So as I'm learning and growing, I'm more than happy to speak about what we do here at the center. I'm very proud of the people that I work with. They're a great group of professionals in our center, and there's always more to learn. Always, it's never changing. It's always changing and always more to learn.
well, I think it'd be great if we could maybe, I don't think that needs to be an item for approval to the board. It's just, I guess it'd be more of a support thing that, I don't know, maybe talk amongst your staff to see if there's something you guys want to present, and maybe, I think it'd be great. So,
Chairman, I think
Yeah.
I'd support that. I think it's a great idea, and I think maybe we should even have a board meeting in Orlando for that too.
I agree.
Oh, never mind. My boss is saying
not in
no.
our budget.
But I do support that idea. Good idea.
On another note, though, because you bring that topic up, as I've gone to these conferences as well, I would also look at them to see where you could send your local IT departments and GIS departments, because oftentimes there's a lot of stuff that's occurring within the 911 center environment that is always inclusive of IT and GIS, and there's a lot of information for them to know and what they should be doing. And as far as like security awareness and all that stuff as well.
Great. Yeah, thank you. That's all I have. Any other? Okay. All right. Number 11, announcements and future agenda items. Does any of the board members like to have announcements through local jurisdiction? I think that you should include any upcoming events, blood drives, trick or trunks, anything that we maybe share with everybody?
I didn't come prepared, sorry.
No. No announcements. Any future agenda items the board members would like to see on the upcoming meetings? Okay.
Mr. Chair, if I may interject, I know that with the recent upgrade to the center, I did want to have an open, open house sort of re-reveal. And I wanted to push that a date out to the members of the board for, whatever, I don't know what date works, but I could pick a date, send it out to you guys, have sort of like an open house for the members to attend, the community as well.
That'd be great. If you want to send us some dates and let
Yeah.
us know, and we'll, okay.
I'll do that.
All right. I just have a couple of agenda items I'd like to get on the next agenda. One would be, I'd like to entertain the idea of bringing in Randy Van Vleck. He's known for teaching counselors, elected officials, proper procedures on conducting open meetings and posting. And I think it'd be great for all of us to, get this training as a board, members of, so that's, I'm going to try to add that to the next agenda item. Or maybe look at his schedule and see if maybe we can't do maybe a special meeting just for like work study training session for us. So the other thing I'd like to talk about is, as chair, I know I have no reflect on management of the dispatch center, and nor do I want that. But I am looking for a dialogue where us as members of our entities, if we have things that we can discuss, maybe like in a work session of things that might work for Rio Rancho, as far as Rio Rancho Fire, dispatching, and might work for Corrales and Count Bernalillo. Just trying to streamline some things and have these talks of what's going on, what are the plans, what's changing. And of course, on the law enforcement side, I'm sure there'd be, so I guess I'm looking at the board. I don't know if we want to do like maybe a subcommittee or committee of fire and police to have these discussions, and then have a representative of the committee come to the board and talk to us about things that are working. And because we can't make recommendations. I mean, we guess we can make recommendations, but I'm just trying to follow the order of, directly to the manager, because we don't go directly to staff. But I think there's some things that I would like to see, maybe some improvements on dispatching. For example, simple things, pre-alerts. This always comes up for debate and discussion. Do we want pre-alerts on fire and EMS calls? And I believe Rio Rancho, you guys don't do pre-alerts anymore, but we still are doing pre-alerts for Corrales. Simple things like that we can have a discussion to say, does it work? Does it really save time? Is it adding time? Things like that. So
I think, Mr. Chairman, I think that's a great idea. And do you already have, manager, like an operations committee? I feel like we talked about this 4 or 5 years ago too, and because of COVID, I think it just kind of died. But I feel like we had this conversation about some sort of operations committee. I just don't think it ever took off.
Right, yeah, you're correct. There was some talks about an operations committee, and I think it's a great idea. I've often talked about this. Some of the biggest challenges in a consolidated center are the fact that, as you know, our CTOs have to train according to each agency and not as a whole. And if there was a way to actually compromise amongst all the agencies on how things are done, if it's going to be no pre-alerts, then no pre-alerts across all agencies. It makes it easier to train that way, as opposed to training for each individual department. And operationally, I honestly think that it would also cut down on mistakes, because oftentimes you're having to rely on the operator's memory for this to happen. A recent request from Cuba came in that they wanted us to call out their officers after they call off 10/7, and then call the chief if they don't. It's all this stuff that's just, it's not feasible at times to do. But I mean, I'm very open to an operational committee to see what we can do, and if we can actually have one standard way, I think it would be the best.
okay, well, I will. That's one of my priorities. So I will coordinate with you and Chief Steele and see how we can streamline this, and how we could all get together and just discuss about some of the things that, operational wise, not pertaining to the board, but maybe just streamline some things and make your job easier as well as ours. So, okay. Any other announcements or future agenda items? Nope. Okay. All right. Next board meeting. So that's going to be January. And I would, well, first off, do we want to have the meeting here in Corrales again? We'd be happy to host again if you guys like coming down here. So, or would anybody, other agency, like to have a meeting in your agency? Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion to host it here again.
Okay, we'd be happy. Okay. So we have a motion. We'll have the meeting here in Corrales. Second. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And I would like to make a recommendation, just to make it a little easier for our clerk, of January 16th or the 30th. That way they don't correspond with our council meeting day. So without,
I think we already have them on the calendar.
yeah, that's why I'm bringing this up. I think it's like the second Tuesday. If we can make it on the 16th, which I believe is the third Tuesday. if that won't,
Mr. Chairman, the 16th, I can tell you right now, and I don't know how many people are going to be interested, but I can tell you, I think that's a legislative conference already. If I remember saying Association of Counties email correctly, the 16th, 15th, or 16th, 17th, 18th or something is a legislative conference in Santa Fe. So several of us might be up there for that with different priorities. So, I mean, I guess if we wanted to do it via Zoom as well, I mean, I could step away for that, but just something to think about.
okay, that's a good point.
So the 23rd, Mr. Chairman, is a conflict, is what you're saying right now?
Yeah,
Because that's what I have is the 23rd.
right.
Okay.
It's, we just have, that's our regular council meeting days, and then we have stuff during the day for,
Can we do it earlier, Mr. Chairman? Can we do it on the 9th? I mean, I know that's right when everyone comes back, but,
that'd also be a conflict.
oh, is it?
That's
Yeah.
our other meeting.
Oh, okay.
The-
So you have two a month,
Yeah, our council
basically.
meets the second and fourth
Got it.
Tuesday of every month. And usually we have a staff meeting at 11 on those days.
The 30th, Mr. Chairman?
We could do the 30th, if that's okay with everybody else. Gives us plenty of time to, yeah? Okay. So the 30th it is. Any opposed? Nope. Okay, so we'll lock it in on January 30th here at the Village of Corrales at 10 a.m. Okay, I'll entertain for a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. Any opposed? All right. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.